Earlier this afternoon, Donald Trump was arraigned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts.
This case is an abomination. It's obvious.
This is the Democrats' entire strategy to confine President Trump to a dirty criminal courtroom and keep him off the campaign trail where he can bring his winning message to voters across this country.
New York has become a legal banana republic. They are so determined to get Donald Trump.
Look, convicting Donald Trump, that's all they have.
I think they have no cards, and they're depending upon Trump getting convicted.
That Trump train doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
The only verdict that matters is the verdict at the ballot box.
Ladies and gentlemen, how is it going, guys? Welcome to day number 2 of jury deliberations, where the jury is deliberating very hard about whether or not Donald Trump is guilty or not guilty. I, in fact, think he is innocent. But I got a question for you guys. Are you guys noticers like I am? Do you guys notice things? They used to call it conspiracy theorists, but I think this word has kind of evolved into a noticer. You're not a conspiracy theorist. You are a noticer. And someone else who is a noticer? A good friend of mine who I actually met last year. She does great things. The biggest, most mega Trump fan I've ever met, Laura Loomer, and she noticed something about Judge Merchan's daughter. Now, most of you guys know that Judge Merchan's daughter runs this organization called Authentic Campaigns, and she makes millions. I think the official number is $94 million that she has made off of this sham trial. And Laura Loomer was one of the first ones really to figure this out. She broke all of this, and she has been following, I believe her name is, what is her name? Lauren Merchan is her name. She's been following her, uncovering everything that she can find about what is going on here, because all these dots are connecting. It's not just a random coincidence that Judge Merchan is in that judge's seat. It's all planned, okay? There's a reason why he's there. There's a reason why he's getting put on every one of these Trump trials. They didn't just pick a number or pick a name out of a hat. No, there's a reason why, and we are seeing it unfold right in front of us. And guys, we will get to the latest updates. We don't have a verdict yet. And I was going to say unfortunately, but to me, that's a good thing. I say fortunately, because in New York, as everyone knows, this is a deep blue liberal state, and them not returning the verdict really quickly bodes well, because that means that they are deliberating. They're actually deliberating and trying to figure out what is going on here. What kind of story is the prosecution telling? The defense story was pretty easy to understand. Todd Blanche broke it down, and at the end of his closing arguments, he gave 10 reasons why every one of these jurors should have some questions about the legitimacy of what they are alleging here. But we will get to those updates here in a second, just in a little bit. The jurors will be going into lunch, so I have some content for you guys while we watch and maybe see a verdict today. So I have a lot of stuff that has been going on. I got stuff about Joe Biden. He had a rally in Philly. And of course, as Joe Biden does, he made a lot of embarrassing mistakes. Poor guy. He's a poor old man that he should not be in this position. But whoever's around him keeps propping him up. And it's really sad. But we have to point it out because we can't, as a country, have that as our leader. So it's important to point it out. It's not being crass. It's not being mean. We got to point it out to other people so we can vote him out of office. But Laura Loomer, look at this. She broke this today, and this is absolutely insane, guys. Absolutely insane. When I saw this, it made my blood boil. Exclusive from Laura Loomer. She tweeted this out not too long ago. Judge Merchan's daughter, Lauren Merchan, Lauren Merchan's clients from her Democrat political consulting firm, Authentic Campaigns. This is their Twitter handle right here. Remember, I showed you their website where they do publicity, or they have all these clients that they raise money for. President Biden, my own governor, Gretchen Whitmer, they've had her as a client. But Authentic Campaigns have been given seats inside the Trump trial in New York City. So they have front row seats to this trial. So not only are they making money off of it, not only is the judge not only does he have a conflict of interest and refuses to recuse himself, not only does the mainstream media refuse to report, or at least the majority of it, refuse to report about this conflict of interest. They pretend like it's not happening. Oh, what conflict? What are you talking about? I don't know what they don't even know what a conflict is anymore. It's insane. But not only all of that, but they are given front row seats. Does that not make your blood boil? That makes me mad. They don't even hide. Usually, used to, these things would be done in the shadows, right? Oh yeah, I rigged this entire trial. I rigged all of this, but I can't go. I can't go there because people are going to see. People are going to see that I'm there watching this, and they're going to connect these dots. They don't even care about you connecting the dots anymore. This is how blatant they've gotten. It's just so in your face, all of this stuff. It disgusts me. But she has a very lengthy tweet here, and I'll read it to you until we get into some other stuff, until we get into the update. Judge Merchan is now allowing his daughter's clients to have unrestricted access inside the Trump trial. His daughter, Lauren Merchan, is a Democrat political consultant. According to the Authentic Campaigns website, which Lauren Merchan is the president of, the anti-Trump Brennan Center for Justice is a client of Lauren Merchan. Joyce Vance is a senior fellow at the Brennan Center for Justice, and she has been inside the Trump trial where she's been writing articles for the Brennan Center for Justice, which target and harass the members of the jury in the Trump trial. You guys saw what happened when Robert De Niro went out there and made a press conference. And Biden's publicist, or the dude, the bald dude that was standing there, the black dude, he comes up. Oh, we were just walking by and we saw these microphones and cameras. We decided to just hold a press conference. Yeah, right. They were just walking by. Oh, this doesn't have, they literally said this doesn't have anything to do with this trial that is happening right over there. It's like, no. You think they don't sequester this jury? So you think this jury is not going to hear from friends and family members who they might be in contact with? Hey, De Niro came out, did a press conference, and was talking about how important it was that Donald Trump not be let back into the White House. So could that be jury tampering? I think there's a good case to be made that it is. De Niro, the Biden administration ganging up together, this washed up actor. He's not even relevant anymore, but there are a lot of people that still like, oh, De Niro, he's a famous person, so therefore maybe I should listen to him. But she's been inside the Trump trial where she's been writing articles for the Brennan Center for Justice, and then I read that. The Brennan Center for Justice hired Lauren Merchan to manage their newsletter, and it says see receipts below. We'll check those out here in a second, which features articles from the Brennan Center for Justice website. Lauren Merchan's clients are now making money off of Lauren's father. And who is Lauren's father? Yes, you're correct. Judge Juan Merchan, the judge presiding over this trial, this hush money trial against Donald Trump. And Lauren is profiting off of her clients having seats inside the Trump trial. This is insane. She profits off of her dad running this trial, overruling just about every single objection from the defense, sustaining almost every objection from the prosecution. She gets to talk about this Trump trial And then she also gets to have people from her organization, connected to her organization inside the Trump trial to get her the most breaking news and get her inside look. Insane. And the media refuses to cover this as a conflict of interest. I guess I'm the media now because I'm actually covering real news. Laura Loomer's the media now. She's actually covering real news. It continues because per her own website, Laura Merchant has increased the size of the Brennan Center's newsletter by 204%. Wow. Business is booming for Lauren Merchant and her company, Authentic Campaigns. Booming. I wonder, they're probably not a publicly traded company, but if they were, you could go to the graph and man, that graph is probably a straight up shot. Political email lists are worth millions of dollars. Yeah, that's one of the things she does. Political email lists. And yeah, they are. Email lists are worth millions and millions of dollars depending on how big that email list is. I used to work for a company who had email lists of clients. And the guy that I worked for, someone wanted an email list from him. Just asked. He was a contractor, wanted the email list for the company I worked for. I used to be a consultant. And they were, I mean, just for this email list of, it was not even that much. It was not even that many people. But it's who the people are, and you realize what they need, want. He said he would charge, it was like tens of thousands of dollars just for this small email list for an obscure consulting firm to a contractor. And the contractor was happy to pay for it, to pay that. These email lists are valuable because they reach out to certain people. And that's just one aspect of what they do over at Authentic Campaigns. But Joyce Vance served as the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama from 2009 to 2017. She was appointed by Barack Hussein Obama. And also, it continues, there's also more exclusive news. Shout out to Laura Loomer for just breaking exclusive news after exclusive news. Additionally, Susan Sachs Goldman, the mother of Democrat New York Congressman Dan Goldman, is on the board of directors for the Brennan Center for Justice. Then she says, as I previously exclusively reported, Representative Goldman is also a client of Laura Merchant. So it's just weird. All of these people who are connected to this trial seem to be clients of Laura Merchant, and then Judge Merchant, of course, he's just being a good father, guys. He wants to help his daughter's company, right? He doesn't want to recuse himself because that's the difference of, millions of dollars for his daughter. He doesn't want to take food off the table of his daughter. Come on. Yeah, right. He prepared Michael Cohen. So this Representative Goldman, who's a client of Laura Merchant, prepared Michael Cohen for his testimony in the Trump trial per his admission on MSDNC. Of course, they mean MSNBC, but MSNBC is such a bad news organization that we call it MSDNC. And Dan Goldman has sent hundreds of thousands of dollars to the personal home residence of Laura Merchant. Why? Man, these Democrats, they have so much money. It's insane. This is arguably jury intimidation in the way that Judge Merchant is having his daughter's clients who worked for Biden's DOJ come into the courtroom to write disparaging articles about the jury, which suggests that they can't make a decision on their own. So they have the daughter's clients who work for the Biden DOJ in there writing articles. His daughter is making money off of this trial. In the DA's office, the one who actually gave the opening arguments was Matthew Colangelo, who is an ex-Biden DOJ. All of this connects back where? To the Democrats, Biden, and possibly Obama. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Because, we all know that Biden is not really running the show there. It's someone else. And I mean, if you were to ask me, I would say Obama's involved somewhere. I don't know. But yes. And then we have some of the links that she posted, some of the pictures. Michael Cohen. This is from the Brennan Center. They're posting about Michael Cohen may have baggage. So they're justifying Michael Cohen and his baggage and being a filthy, dirty, liar. The gloat, the greatest liar of all time. Remember Michael Cohen? He may have baggage, but the prosecution did not select Michael Cohen to be their key witness in this case. Donald Trump did. Yeah, right. So that they're justifying that. This comes from Brennan Center senior fellow Joyce Vance. And she was on MSNBC. And that's actually a direct quote of what the prosecution said in their closing arguments. I remember reading that. Of course, it's a screenshot from authentic campaigns from their website. They're proud of their work with the Brennan Center for Justice. And this is also from their website that talks about the Brennan Center for Justice, who has people, liaisons, all in this trial. They get front row seats to this trial. The Brennan Center for Justice is a nonpartisan, right? Law and Policy Institute, nonpartisan. These people just lie. That seeks to improve systems of democracy and justice. And then we have the Brennan Center for Justice Board of Directors. So Laura Loomer came with the receipts. And right there, Susan Sachs Goldman, right there, came with receipts. But ladies and gentlemen, I came in with a bang. Did you guys enjoy that new Trump ad? Man, that one really pumped me up. When I saw that, I was like, I gotta open with this Trump ad. It's so sick. I loved it. But who do we have in the chat, guys? We are doing a verdict watch today. I'm gonna try to go once again. I'm gonna try to go to 4:30 New York time, 3:30 my time. So I'm trying to go for 2.5 hours. I got content. If all else fails, I even have the PDF of the exact jury instructions so we can know exact, because I know there's a lot of stuff floating around there. What are in these jury instructions? And I think it's important to stay accurate on these jury instructions. Sometimes they can be hard to figure out, but it's important to be able to hear exactly what is being written. And there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with these jury instructions, but I have the 50 pages here. So if I run out of stuff to say, guys, I can always fall back on that. Unless you guys just want me to read it. It's very interesting. I read a few pages of it last night when I was on Firebrand Media. But let's hear from you guys. As usual, we have Michelle in the chat. Hold on a second, guys. I forgot to turn off my phone. Someone's calling. We've got Michelle C in the chat. Michelle, thank you for modding for me. I really appreciate it. Michelle is the best, of course. She will make sure every one of you smashes that like button. And you know what? I keep telling her, Michelle, listen, they don't have to smash the like button. They can lightly tap it. They can brush it with their thumb, or they can sniff it like Joe Biden. I don't care as long as the nose hits the thumbs up button. So guys, if you get the chance, please hit that like button. I'm trying my best here. Okay, guys. Trying my best here. We've got Black Lives MAGA in the chat. Louis Farrakhan for Trump 2024. Black Lives MAGA. You know what? I like that. I like Black Lives MAGA. I like that. We've got my sister, Valerie, who is in the chat. Valerie, get back to work. What are you doing? Why are you watching me? The pressure is on. We've got Cindy Vance in the chat. Hello from Texas. Hello, Cindy. I am a former Texan. I used to live in Texas, all over Texas, actually. I went to University of Texas at Austin. So I'm very familiar. I love Texas. We have John Gardner from Arkansas. Arkansas is in the house. A lot of family. And we have Selah, and she says, I sniffed the like button in honor of Crooked Joe. Whew. I feel sorry for that like button. It is probably huddled in the corner in the fetal position right now after you did that. But, I thank you for doing that anyways. But what do you guys think is going to happen with this verdict? I am watching it right now. We are going to go to some of the updates. Guys, I have multiple updates from multiple individuals who are following this very closely. Of course, we have Inner City Press, who we're going to be reading what his perspective was. And then we have Jonathan Turley. He's in there as well. We're going to be reading what his perspective was. And then we have a couple, liberals that are in there as well. I always like to read the perspective of the other people as well, the other side. I think it's important. So we have Adam Klasfeld, who is in the courtroom, and he has been very prompt on giving updates. He is kind of a leftist, but that's okay. And then we have Anna Bauer, who is also a leftist, but she's also very prompt. So I like to get different perspectives so we can get like a full 360 degrees. What is going on? What are people thinking? So let's go into the courtroom where we have our update from Inner City Press. Let me change the view right here. Zoom in a little bit. Make the text bigger so all you can see. There we go. Can you guys see that okay? Let me go out a little bit. There we go. Okay, guys. So this is going to be the latest that we have so far. Of course, the jury is deliberating right now. And they probably are actually on lunch break right now because I think they take lunch at 2:15. So this is a perfect time to catch up and get everything caught up to where they are at right now. So maybe, I don't know how long their lunch break is, maybe 30 minutes, probably, maybe, I don't know. Alvin Bragg, he probably, eats more than the average person, but I don't think he's even there because Alvin Bragg is not really even involved in this case. They like to say this is Alvin Bragg's case. No, it's not. It's funny because I rarely even talk about Alvin Bragg, honestly. I mostly talk about Merchan or like Colangelo. I'll talk about them because Alvin Bragg is just a figurehead. He lets his office be used like a host for parasitic Biden individuals, people who are connected to Biden. So the office, Alvin Bragg's office, is the host. And then you have these lawyers like Matthew Colangelo, who's connected with Obama's DOJ and Biden's DOJ. And they use his office. And then, they're just zombies. It's like a zombie DA's office. Alvin Bragg is not even doing anything. He's just the one that is on the placard outside the office. It's crazy. But let's go into the courtroom and let's get caught up. What is going on? What happened during everything? Oh, hold on a second, guys. I can't go into the courtroom right now. Hold on. I jumped the gun. We also have we've got a Trump press conference today. I forgot about this. So I can't go into the courtroom yet. Let's look at this Trump press conference first. This was today. It was posted just a couple hours ago by Benny Johnson. So this was today, I believe. So let's hear what Trump has to say, and then we'll go into the courtroom. How about that? We got time, guys. This is a verdict watch, so come back to that here in a second.
Thank you very much. Here we go again. 5 weeks. I've been here. I'm gagged. I'd like to answer all of your questions. They're very easy questions to answer, but I'm gagged, so I can't talk as much as I would like to about this ridiculous case that's hurting our country so badly. Some of the reviews from yesterday are and by the way, everyone's against this case. I haven't seen one legal scholar or expert in the law say that this case should have been filed. It should not have been filed, or at a minimum, it should have been filed 7 years ago. It's 7 years old. Everybody turned it down, including federal elections turned it down. Southern District turned it down. Bragg turned it down. Then he rejuvenated it when I was running for office. It's a terrible thing. At the request of Biden, the editors of the National review say, acquit Trump. Bragg has failed to prove his charges. Totally failed. Greg Jarrett, who exactly was defrauded? Voters who had already voted. Well, they already voted because all of this stuff came in after the election. So how were they defrauded? And then you say, what about Hillary with the dossier? What about all of these other things that go? And this is nothing. This is nothing. But what about all of the corruption, the voter fraud that you've seen over the last year on behalf of the Democrats, and nobody talks about it? This is ridiculous what they're talking about. This is called running for office. Greg Jarrett, the government, which received full payment on all taxable income. The government, by the way, received full payment. The taxes were paid in full. In fact, they made comment on that. Even if the taxes were paid in full, the Federal Elections Commission had concluded the money paid did not constitute a campaign contribution under the law. And remember, this judge wouldn't allow us. Look, he's a very conflicted judge. Everybody knows that. You don't want to talk about what the conflict was. I'm not allowed to talk about it because of a gag order that he put on me. It's the one subject he really doesn't want to talk about. There was no fraud. There was no conspiracy. It's that simple. Moreover, without a primary crime, there can be no secondary crime. It's a classic lawfare, weaponizing statutes, because the law has been, because no law has been broken. That was Greg Jarrett. Ellie Honig, legal analyst for CNN. The crime here is not easy to explain or to understand. It's just not understandable. In other words, there is no crime. This is CNN. Catherine Christian from MSNBC, I call it MSDNC, legal analyst. It's difficult because it's a very nuanced...
MSDNC, baby.
It's never been prosecuted before. This is an argument that has never been prosecuted before. And hopefully it'll never be prosecuted again. Andy McCarthy, this is anything but standard. It's the antithesis of standard, actually. The idea that they do not have to agree on what the other crime is. We spent 6 weeks wondering, what is the other crime? What is the other crime? And at the end, the thud we all get is this. There's 3 or 4 of them, and you could pick one from the other, and they don't have to agree on anything. And what he's saying is it's so corrupt. Nobody's ever heard of anything like this. It's called pick 'em. It's like the lottery. Pick 'em. You pick 'em. And you don't have to be, even though in a criminal case you have to be unanimous, you don't have to be. Just give a couple of votes, because the judge, unfortunately, is corrupt. Judge Jeanine Pirro, no one has heard of this. It's like as a menu column A, B, or C. You don't have to agree on it. This is a kangaroo court. This is unheard of. I've never seen anything like it. I've done this for 32 years. I'm not a federal prosecutor. I'm a state prosecutor, so I know what I'm talking about. I'm not a federal judge. I'm a county judge, just like Bersha. This is New York law. This is my wheelhouse. He is 100% wrong. He's wrong. That's what Jeanine Pirro, very good woman, very smart woman. Jonathan Turley, this is becoming a 3-card Monte game on where is the crime? Smart guy, where is the crime? Mike Davis, the U.S. would sanction a country for doing this. I think that's good. I think that's good. Steve Hilton, it seems that every single day these proceedings go on, the judge and the prosecutor just go out of their way to prove Trump's point. And I guess they are proving my point when you think. That's why I write some of these things that are very sad. Mark Levin, this Stalinist-like case, it's a Stalinist-like case. It has prevented President Trump from running for office. It has prevented him from campaigning. He's unable to campaign because he's been in a courthouse for 5 weeks. And yet we just had a poll came out, NPR. Trump's 54, Biden's 42. And that's with independents. That's the best we've ever had. They said this is the single best poll that Trump has ever had with independents. Trump's largest lead among independent voters, NPR Marist College, 44-28. And Junior is way down, way down. But it's 44. Junior is extremely liberal. By the way, he's extremely radical left. I think you know that. But he seems to be hurting Biden probably a little bit. So that's it. It's a disgrace. The millions and millions of dollars that are spent daily on this case, outside it looks like it's Fort Knox, like they're guarding this. I've never seen so many policemen. Now with Columbia University, you can plant a tent right in front of the main door, no problem. NYU, just put your tent up, don't worry about it. Over here, but I just want to say that this is a very sad day for America. The whole world is watching, and it's a very sad day for New York. I've gone through 2 of these trials already. It's with the same kind of a judge. It's all worked. It's all rigged. The whole thing, the whole system is rigged. Judge Engoron was overturned 5 times in my case, and he's going to be overturned again. And we were treated very, very badly. And the outside world is watching, and the outside world is just not going to bring their business to New York. And that's going to cost the city trillions and the state trillions and trillions of dollars. Businesses are leaving, and people are fleeing. So you can see the quotes yourself, and thank you all very much. We'll comment later on in the evening, but we'll be here, it looks like a long time. Thank you.
So another great press conference by Donald Trump, and I saw this earlier as well, guys, before we get into the update of everything. This, he reposted or retruthed this, or screenshotted it and posted it on, or truthed it on True Social. And this is a list of how the regime is weaponized and some of the tools and tricks they use against you. And these tricks, honestly, I talked about a little bit yesterday. It's getting kind of old, you know? They have all the power. They have a massive amount of power, but they try to pretend like going after them. You're the dangerous one, right? This is what Trump reposted. He said, naturally, Jack Smith and Jay Bratt's motion to gag Trump is wholly devoid of required facts and law. This comes from his Judge Eileen Cannon. They try to gag him in that trial because they say that his comments and stuff he says is dangerous to the system of justice. They point to no instance, any threat, let alone how Trump incited any threat. Their motion is frivolous. The bottom line is the Biden Justice Department wants to unconstitutionally gag Trump to control their political narrative. And in this hush money case, they were able to do that. They succeeded in doing that through Judge Burchan. They pretend criticism of government officials equates to threat. Yeah, guys, what does this sound like to you? When you criticize the government, that's a threat. They treat it as a threat. Does that not give you chills? Or does not chills? Does that not sound chilling? What kinds of countries equates criticism of government to threats? You guys know. That's a very dangerous mindset. In America, a defendant, more than anyone, must have the constitutional right to publicly speak out against the judge, prosecutors, investigators, staff, witnesses, biases, and the process. That's what our First Amendment is all about. If a defendant obstructs justice by threatening witnesses, charge him with obstruction of justice. Don't just gag him. If he tries to send out threats against witnesses, charge him with obstruction of justice. That's not what Donald Trump is doing. He's just talking. He's like, hey, I just want to talk about these trials that I'm being unconstitutionally gagged on, but he's not allowed to. This one, Judge Cannon, fortunately, is a good one, and she did not allow this gag order to go through. But the fact that they even tried is very concerning. Jack Smith and Jay Bratt, no, they cannot do that as they have zero evidence. Instead, they are conspiring to impose an unconstitutional and un-American gag order on Trump. The Biden White House and Justice Department pretend their supporters have a First Amendment right to obstruct justice by doxing and intimidating Supreme Court justices and their family in their homes. This lawyer for the Justice Department, Jay Bratt, he tried to get one of Trump's lawyers to flip on Trump. And I guess this lawyer, I'm not really super up on what happened with all of this, but it's pretty crazy in this classified documents case. Jay Bratt, is that his name, Bratt? Yeah, Jay Bratt tried to get one of Trump's lawyers to flip, and he said he noticed that Trump's lawyer he had like an application in, or he was trying to become a judge in the DC area. And he tried to use that as blackmail, extortion to get Trump's lawyer to flip. That actually happened. This came from Jack Smith's right-hand man, Jay Bratt. Insane. This is some of the declassified or unsealed documents from this case with Judge Eileen Cannon and this classified documents case. When Biden and Garland knew which Biden and Garland knew included the potentially deadly force when they authorized it. They get to get damning crossfire hurricane presidential records Trump was allowed to have under Presidential Records Act. So yeah. So thankfully the judge in that case is a good one. Let's do a couple more of these. This was Don Jr., who did like a post on TikTok, I guess, of Donald Trump, our favorite president, sitting there. Are they in this some sort of holding area? This must be during the whole deliberations. Don Jr. said, "I'm here with your favorite president. We're cranking out a couple mean tweets at the courtroom." Some of you guys might have already seen this, but this is what he said.
Hey guys, I'm here with your favorite president. We're cranking out a couple mean tweets at the courthouse. Why don't you read that last one, because I think it's pretty
I think I'm going to put it out instead of reading it, but I know my son's doing very well on social media. I'm proud of him.
Stay tuned. It'll be a doozy. Hey guys, I'm here with your favorite
That was Don
president.
Jr.
We're cranking out a couple mean tweets.
Okay, you can be quiet now. And then also we have Inner City Press. He was outside the courthouse yesterday, and he saw Trump's motorcade drive past. This was yesterday after the jury deliberations. And so I thought that was kind of cool. Figured I'd show it to you guys. There we go. So Trump's motorcade leaving the courthouse. And then also my favorite one, Donald Trump greets supporters, waves to supporters outside the courthouse. Everyone's very excited to see him. Thumbs up, fist bump. Trump is in good spirits. Very, very, very good to see, of course. All right, are we all caught up? I think we are. I think we're all caught up. I've got more stuff going on if we need to. But let's get caught up to what is going on inside the courtroom. Get a few perspectives on it from different people. But this is Inner City Press, who I've been following for the past several weeks in this whole trial. If you guys want to listen to any of that, I have a whole thing on my YouTube channel with all of the videos. But let's go back into the courtroom where Trump is here. He's wearing a blue suit. He's got a blue tie on. Man, this guy, he can dress. He's just so sharp, right? This sharp dresser. Not like Alvin Bragg. Looks like he just woke up, probably. Not even there. But Todd Blanche is smoothing his hair down. I'm assuming Todd Blanche is smoothing his, referring to Todd Blanche's hair down, not Trump's hair. That'd be weird, right? Imagine Todd Blanche smooths Trump's hair. That would headline news. Beauvais, not so much. Yeah, Beauvais, not so much because he is, what's the correct term? He is follically challenged. A sheet of paper is passed down the line to Susan Nichols. All rise. Clerk says, this is the people of the state of New York versus Donald J. Trump. And Judge Bertrand enters the courtroom. All right. I read over the disputed area of readback. They will all come in. Anything on that? Prosecutor says, thank you, Judge. Thank you so much. Thanks for making our entire case for us. We didn't even have to do anything. And Blanche says, no, that's all. It doesn't even matter if I want anything. You're not going to allow it anyways. Bertrand says, okay, we received another jury note on jury instructions. They want page 7 through 35. So Judge Bertrand, he's keeping all the evidence with him. So if they want if they want testimony, a refresher on testimony, if they want a refresher on evidence, even if they want to review the jury instructions. They don't have a copy. I have a copy. How ironic is this? I have a copy of the jury instructions, but the jurors don't. They heard it one time, and if they want to try to recall an instruction, they have to go to the judge directly. Yeah, that's weird. That's really weird. So Judge Merchan maintaining a lot of control over this trial, all the way down to the individual jurors, making sure that he can stay updated and he can try to use his influence to twist everything he can. Because if they want to hear instruction, if they want to hear some evidence or a testimony that they forgot, he's there and he could add his 2 cents if he wants to. And you know he will. You know he will be adding his 2 cents. But the Judge Merchan continues, they asked for headphones. They, referring to the jury, they wanted headphones for use with the evidence laptop. I think we could give them speakers so they can all hear. We can give them both. So we can give them headphones and speakers on the laptop. Does the speakers not have, or does the laptop not have speakers? That's weird. Let me put on record, the laptop does not have Wi-Fi. Let's get the jury, please. And the jury enters. Judge Merchan says, all right, jury, we have your notes. And then he rereads the notes. And he says, let me know by note if you want headphones or speakers. Do you want the instructions or testimony first? So they're rereading portions of the testimony and the instructions. Because instructions? Okay, we'll do the instructions first. And he begins reading from page 6. Now, let's see what page 6 has to say. Let's go down to page 6. So this is what the jurors want to hear right now. Page 6, and this is from NewYorkCourts.gov, page 6. This is where they started. When you, the judge, let me restart this. When you judge the facts, you are to consider only evidence. The evidence in this case, includes the testimony of the witnesses. Here, let me zoom in so you guys can see this better. That's better. The exhibits that were received in evidence and the stipulations agreed to by the parties. Remember, a stipulation is information the parties have agreed to present to the jury as evidence without calling a witness. Remember, a stipulation is information the parties have agreed to present to the jury as evidence without calling a witness to testify. Testimony which was stricken from the record or to which an objection was sustained must be disregarded by you. So I want you to pay attention to that. Testimony stricken from the record or to which an objection was sustained. Now, who sustains these objections? That's right. Judge Merchan. So if the prosecution did not like what the defense was raising or was talking about, what type of, argument they're going down or some sort of evidence that they wanted to present, objection, judge says sustained. And now in the jury instructions, this is normal for jury instructions, but it just shows you how much control the judge has over this trial, how he's able to curate this trial and what happens in it. Testimony which was stricken from the record or to which an objection was sustained by Judge Merchan must be disregarded by you. Exhibits that were received in evidence are available upon your request for your inspection and consideration. Exhibits that were just seen during the trial or marked for identification but not received in evidence are not evidence and are thus not available for your inspection and consideration. But testimony based on these exhibits that were not received in evidence may be considered by you. The testimony based on these exhibits that were not received in evidence may be considered by you. It is just that the exhibit itself is not available for your inspection and consideration. So that's the page they started on. I wonder what page they ended on. Page 6 to 25. All right. In evaluating the evidence, you may consider any fact that is proven. So, guys, if you're just joining us, this is what the jury requested to have a refresher on. They wanted to reread pages 6 through 25 of the jury instructions. So I'm reading it for you guys, so you guys kind of have an idea of what the jury is hearing, what they're thinking. And this is the jury instructions from NewYorkCourts.gov. So this is official. They don't have access to this. They have to go to Judge Merchan to hear this stuff. They don't have a copy. But continuing on in page 7, in evaluating the evidence, you may consider any fact that is proven and any inference which may be drawn from such fact. To draw an inference means to infer, find, conclude that a fact exists or does not exist based upon proof or some other fact or facts. For example, suppose you go to bed one night when it is not raining, and when you wake up in the morning, you look out your window and you do not see rain, but you see that the street and the sidewalk are wet, and that people are wearing raincoats and carrying umbrellas. So you can be like, okay, I wasn't outside when it was raining, but I went to sleep, walked outside, the street's wet, people are wearing raincoats, carrying umbrellas, so it must have just stopped raining very recently. So, jurors, I can't really find a crime. I don't really know what this prosecution is saying, but I have a suspicion that because I am, I have Trump derangement syndrome, that he probably committed a crime, so therefore I can just infer that he committed a crime, even though the smoking gun never appeared. He wants that in their minds. Under those circumstances, it may be reasonable to infer, that is, conclude, that it rained during the night. In other words, the fact of it having rained while you were asleep is an inference that might be drawn from the proven facts of the presence of the water on the street and the sidewalk and people in raincoats and carrying umbrellas. An inference must only be drawn from a proven fact or facts, and then only if the inference flows naturally, reasonably, and logically from the proven fact or facts, not if it is speculative. Therefore, in deciding whether to draw an inference, you must look at and consider all the facts in light of reason, common sense, and experience. Okay, guys, we're going to take a short break from this. I'm going to go to live updates here. See what we have. These are just live updates from CNN. It says Trump is also facing 3 other criminal cases while running for president. That has nothing to do with that. What we know about okay, so nothing really happening right now. Because guys, like I said, I'm covering this live, so I don't want to miss anything just in case something happens. I don't want to miss a verdict. That'd just be terrible. That's what this whole stream is about. Verdict watch. Giving you guys an update of everything that's going on. But going on to page 8, we have some redactions. Once again, this is what the jury requested to rehear. Redactions, as you know, certain exhibits were admitted into evidence with some portions blacked out or redacted. Those redactions were made to remove personal identifying information. They don't want to dox anybody. And to ensure that only relevant admissible evidence was put before you. You may not speculate as to what material was redacted or why, and you may not draw any inference, favorable or unfavorable, against either party from the fact that certain material has been redacted. So you can't speculate as to what the material being redacted is, why it was redacted. Limiting instructions. This is page number 9. You may recall that I instructed you several times during this trial that certain exhibits were being accepted into evidence for a limited purpose only, and that you were not to consider that evidence for any other purpose. Under the law, we refer to that as a limiting instruction. I will now remind you of some of the limiting instructions you were given during the trial. AMI. You will recall that you heard testimony that while David Pecker was an executive at AMI entered into a non-prosecution agreement with federal prosecutors, as well as a conciliation agreement with the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. I remind you that evidence was permitted to assist you. I remind you that that evidence was permitted to assist you. The jury. In assessing David Pecker's credibility and to help provide context for some of the surrounding events, you may consider that testimony for those purposes only. For those purposes only, you may consider that testimony. Neither the non-prosecution agreement nor the conciliation agreement is evidence of the defendant's guilt. And you may not consider them in determining whether the defendant is guilty, not guilty, or not guilty of the charged crimes. Now they get to Michael Cohen in these jury's instructions. Michael Cohen, you also heard testimony that the Federal Election Commission conducted an investigation into the payment to Stormy Daniels and of responses submitted by Michael Cohen and his attorney to the investigation. That evidence was permitted to assist you, the jury, in assessing Michael Cohen's credibility and to help provide context for some of the surrounding events. You may consider that evidence for those purposes only. Likewise, you will recall that you heard testimony from Michael Cohen, or testimony that Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to violating the FEC Act, Federal Election Campaign Act, the FECA. I remind you that evidence was permitted to assist you, the jury, in assessing Mr. Cohen's credibility as a witness and to help provide context for some of the following events, some of the events that followed. You may consider that testimony for those purposes only. Neither the fact of the FEC investigation, Mr. Cohen and his attorney's responses, or the fact that Mr. Cohen pled guilty constitutes evidence of the defendant's guilt. I don't know if you guys remember, but the prosecutors were allowed to argue in their closing arguments that Donald Trump, they were able to state it as fact that Donald Trump committed an FEC violation. The defense objected, the judge overruled. And now he contradicts himself in the jury's instructions. It's crazy. The fact that he overruled that objection just blows my mind. This judge is criminal. Wall Street Journal articles, you will recall. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit to the next one because they kind of restate the same stuff in all of these. But presumption of innocence. We're on page number 11 now. We're going to page 25 because we want to hear what the jury is hearing, what the jury is hearing. And just note here, Judge Marchand in these jury instructions, if you have any additional questions or need clarification as to which exhibits were accepted into evidence with limitations, just send me a note with your question. I'll be happy to twist it up and let you guys know how guilty Donald Trump is. Now he says, I'll be happy to clarify. But we know what clarify means because he has a conflict of interest. He'll clarify, all right. But moving on to the presumption of innocence section of this jury instruction, we now turn to the fundamental principles of our law that apply in all criminal trials: the presumption of innocence, the burden of proof, and the requirement of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Throughout these proceedings, the defendant is presumed to be innocent. As a result, you must find the defendant not guilty on the evidence presented at this trial. You conclude, I think they forgot to put an if. As a result, you must find the defendant not guilty unless on the evidence presented at this trial, you conclude that the people have proven the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So if they don't prove Donald Trump guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find him not guilty. In determining whether the people have satisfied their burden of proof, their burden of proving the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, you may consider all the evidence presented, whether by the people or by the defendant. In doing so, however, remember that even though the defendant introduces evidence, the burden of proof remains on the people. And then they talk about defendants who did not testify. Or the fact that Donald Trump, the defendant, did not testify. The fact that the defendant did not testify is not a factor from which any inference unfavorable to the defendant may be drawn. It's just freedom of speech. He's allowed not to testify. The defendant is not required to prove that he is not guilty. In fact, the defendant is not required to prove or disprove anything. To the contrary, the people have the burden of proof of proving the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That means before you can find the defendant guilty of a crime, the people must prove beyond a reasonable doubt every element of the crime, including that the defendant is the person who committed the crime. The burden of proof never shifts from the people to the defendant. If the people fail to satisfy their burden of proof, you must find the defendant not guilty, and if the people satisfy their burden of proof, you must find the defendant guilty. If they fail, find them not guilty. If they satisfy it, find them guilty. All right, guys, we're going to take a little break from this. This is kind of long. I don't want to bore you guys to death. Let's finish the update of what happened in the courtroom. So Merchan, 20 minutes into reading, has moved from page 6 to page 25 of his jury instruction. And he includes in this, it's unclear why a written copy of the instructions and of the upcoming testimony readback couldn't be given in writing to jurors. So they're not giving any of this stuff to jurors. So the jurors are back here speculating, like feeling around in the dark, like, am I right here? Oh, I have to talk to the judge again to clarify this. Send judge a note. So it's insane what's going on here. They should have all access to all of this right there. But Judge Merchan says, now we will do the readbacks. And reader number 1, whoever that is, must be the juror, says, did you ever come to believe that Michael Cohen had spoken with Donald Trump about Miss McDougal? So they're reading back, I believe, the testimony of Pecker. And the response from Pecker is yes. Then finally at 11:11, Make-A-Wish, the readbacks get to 4 of 4, Cohen's version of the Trump Tower meeting. This is what they requested, I believe, yesterday. They wanted a refresher on what happened during that Trump Tower meeting. And Judge Merchan says, jurors that completes the readings, have we answered all your requests? You may retire to deliberate, but don't start until the audio has been set up for you. And then he says to the parties, you are excused. So the jurors go back to their deliberation room, apparently. And, you know, this is Inner City Press and his links. He has a book on Amazon. Does great work. If you guys would like to read this in book form, I think he has it on like Audible too, so you can listen to it in audio book form. And that's what we have from Inner City Press, ladies and gentlemen. But also, I want to look at this perspective from Jonathan Turley as well. He's got a big perspective on everything that's going on here. He's been following this very closely. And we can kind of get a full 360. Inner City Press, he doesn't get too into politics. He's pretty fair and balanced. He doesn't really say anything good or bad about Trump. He has, I believe he's sympathizes with Trump. I do believe he does, because he takes jabs at the judge every now and then and at these proceedings, because he doesn't just follow this trial. He follows all sorts of proceedings all over New York City. He does fantastic work. But Jonathan Turley, of course, he's got a little more interest. He might be able to provide us with some good perspective on these things. He's got a good legal mind. So we'll see what Jonathan Turley has to say. He says that Judge Merchan has erred on the side of inclusion. There was a subsequent request to add more, and he approved it. There is another note from the jury. So we're going back. We're rereading this stuff from a different person's perspective. Multiple perspective. I'm a multiple perspective channel, okay? We're not in a bubble here. I'm sorry. If you want to be in a bubble, go somewhere else. We look at multiple perspectives. The jury is asking for instructions on count 1 and how to deal with evidence and the inference to be drawn from the evidence. He will read pages 7 through 35. The inference instructions are interesting. This is from Turley. It is not the corroboration or perjury material that would have presumably focused on Cohen. However, the inference sections would go to how much that can read into, how much that they can read into the implications of the testimony. Much of Cohen's testimony did not concretely establish knowledge or intent by Trump, but the prosecutors insisted that they could just infer that from the evidence. They can infer that just like you can infer if you wake up and the streets are wet, people are holding umbrellas, you can infer that it rained. So the prosecutors are like, you can infer that because it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same analogy. It's pretty much like waking up and it starts raining and there's people wearing raincoats. You can infer that this points to Trump. It established intent. You can just infer that. Likewise, Pecker's testimony tied his actions to the election. And the question is, how much can the jury infer from the accounts of the Trump Tower meeting that Trump knew and approved of this effort? So did Trump know of what was going on? There was no smoking gun, but can you infer that? Can you infer that like you went to sleep and you woke up and the street is wet and the umbrellas were out there and people... But he continues, I should have said better than good news. I should have said better than good news. So this must be good news from Jonathan Turley. The corroboration and perjury instructions would have suggested that Cohen was the stumbling block. This goes to the question of weight that can be given to these accounts. Notably, they are asking for mostly Pecker's account, but also have a request for a Cohen package. So they're requesting Cohen and Pecker stuff. I lost my spot, guys. Hold on a second. Let me find it. Oh, here we are. So they're asking for Pecker's accounts, Cohen's stuff from Cohen, which is good. The jury specifically raised the rain metaphor in their request for the readback. So this is the metaphor that you can infer. Even if you didn't see, you can infer something if everything points to it being true. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I would say it's a bad thing. That metaphor is meant to suggest that observing some facts can affirm the occurrence of other prior facts, like seeing umbrellas to show that it has rained. The defense has obviously resisted the sweeping inferences from the prosecution. I must confess a certain frustration with the process, and I expect that some jurors may have the same reaction. The insistence on only reading the instructions to this jury is so illogical. So now he's going into why is the judge not giving the instructions to the jury and letting them have a hard copy of it? He says it's so illogical that the judge is doing this and ineffective in my view. It is like returning the proceedings back to an oral tradition before the advent of writing. It is better than cave drawings, but it leaves the matter to the notes of jurors to furiously write down snippets. Why? Because these instructions were carefully thought over and considered by the judge and counsel. One would think that the interests of justice would be served by having the language before the jury as they deliberated. Instead, they have to have it read to them like toddlers after long delays to come into the courtroom and work out what portions will be read. It is entirely counterintuitive in my view. So this is Jonathan Turley talking. Saying it's counterintuitive that the judge doesn't just give them a copy of the jury instructions. This is so weird. It's like everywhere you look, it just smells fishy. The judge is again instructing that the jury can discharge the entirety of the witness of it, this is important, guys. Let me reread this. The judge is again instructing the jury that they can discharge the entirety of the testimony of a witness who has lied previously or in the testimony. So if the jury thinks Michael Cohen lied, they can just completely disregard that. And that's good if there's a juror there that wants to be a holdout and say, hey, I didn't believe Michael Cohen. I believe he lied. So therefore, I'm not going to listen to any of his testimony. I'm not going to consider any of his testimony because he's a liar. Because he's, in fact, the gloat, the greatest liar of all time. That was just a fantastic line. Fantastic line. All right, before we continue, guys, let's go back to you guys. Let's see what you guys are doing over here in the chat. How's everyone doing for today? Jury deliberation day number 2. Everyone doing well? Who do we have in the chat? We have Southern California here, Kathy LaBelle. I recognize Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for watching. We have Donna Ross in the chat. Morris Foster says Trump is not guilty. God bless our president, Donald J. Trumpet. I think he meant Trump. Jim Reaper is in the chat. Thorny Nose says wisdom is a toddler. Yeah, there's a lot of kids that are a lot more wise than some of our adults these days. Michelle, my fantastic, incredible moderator, says, what's so strange is it's only a few months away from election time and no one is campaigning. Right? No one is campaigning. I mean, Biden, he had a rally, okay, in Philly. I think it was yesterday. I have some clips of that to show you guys later. It's pretty incredibly embarrassing. Yeah, it was rough. Michelle says only President Trump. Yeah, President Trump is rallying against all odds. He's campaigning against all odds, even though he has a gag order and he's constricted for the most part several weeks to just New York City. You know, unless he does like a quick flight to another state very quickly because he's got to be back at court the next day. New Jersey in the house. Thanks for watching, New Jersey. Maria Elena. Thanks for watching, Maria. Jeff says he's definitely doing that so he can put his bias spin on the instructions. That's what I believe as well. He wants as much contact with the jury as possible. He's not supposed to be back there while they deliberate. So he wants to stay in his chambers. And if they want anything, they have to come to him first. They can't just go in there and make up their own mind and have the jury instructions, everything they need right there. No, they have to come to him first about everything. Who else we got here? We got 447. Have you guys hit the like button yet? Smash that like button, if you would, please. We got Travis, Jacksonville, North Carolina in the house. Thanks for watching, Travis. I appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys. Hello from the heart of Illinois, the prairie land, not the liberal land. Hello. Rebecca from Arkansas. Thorny Nose, you're going to make me blush. You are good at what you do on Woke Thoughts. Thank you. You're going to make me blush, but thank you. I appreciate it. I love the compliments. When he says, I think he's not writing it down so he can keep changing things, mixing everything up. If they had a hard copy, they wouldn't have to question him and he would lose control. He is definitely trying to retain control over as much as he can over this proceeding. But okay, guys, let's go back to this. While we wait, do we have any update from anything? Okay, let's go back to Jonathan Turley. We'll finish this and we'll poke around some other stuff and see if we have any updates. So we'll finish Jonathan Turley, then I'll go to Anna Bauer. She's kind of a leftist, but she adds some documents and some other perspectives in her Twitter thread that are kind of interesting. So we'll go to her. We'll jump to her. Then to the final, we'll go to the perspective of Adam Klasfeld. He's been there this entire time as well. Another kind of lefty, but it is what it is. Okay, now I got to remember where I was. Okay, the judge is again instructing the jury. Okay, here. We were right here. They are hearing again that they must find corroboration of the testimony of Cohen because he is being treated as an accomplice. Thus, even if you find Cohen's testimony believable, they still must have corroborating evidence to support that testimony. Again, it is hard to see if the inference instruction that the jury wanted to hear came up with regard to Cohen or more generally to the evidence in the case. Turley continues, they are now hearing Pecker's testimony of when he received a call from Donald Trump. He said that Trump told him that Karen is a nice girl and that he heard that there was a group trying to buy McDougal's story and asked what Pecker thought he should do. Pecker recommended buying the story. So Pecker of AMI, National Enquirer, said you should buy the story. But Pecker said that he believed that the story would be embarrassing both to himself and to his campaign. And Turley says that is an interesting passage because it shows a dual interest in avoiding such stories where Donald Trump says, I probably shouldn't do that because this always gets out. Pecker also testified that he previously killed stories for Trump before he ran for office, and he did so for a number of other celebrities. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rahm Emanuel, Tiger Woods. This was like what he did for money. Pecker says that Hope Hicks was in and out of the meeting. Trump and Cohen were present. Pecker said that he did not know what the purpose of the meeting was. He said that he was asked what the magazine could do to help the campaign. Pecker said that he intended to run positive stories on Trump and negative stories on his opponents and remain the, quote, eyes and ears for Trump, including any stories involving those evil, evil women. They are now reading a different portion of Pecker's cross-examination. Pecker said it was easy to say that he would continue his practice on running interference on these stories. Pecker admitted that at the key meeting, there was no discussion of a, quote, catch and kill effort. He also said that Stormy Daniels' story was not part of the August 15 meeting. This was the line, I believe, that the prosecutors wanted to keep out on rereading. This was a line that the prosecutors wanted to keep out on the rereading. So they didn't want this part in the rereading. And the part was, he said that Stormy Daniels' story was not part of the August 15 meeting. And the prosecutors did not want the jury to hear that. Pecker confirmed again that there was no discussion of a catch and kill or payments for any story. And that concludes what we have for Jonathan Turley. He is there doing great work, guys. That's Jonathan Turley. All right. Let's see what else we have going on here, guys. Let's go to CNN. Do we have any live updates from them? Day 2 of jury deliberations have begun. Let's do a quick refresh here. Happening now. The New York jury in Donald Trump's historical hush money trial is deliberating on a verdict for a second day. Per their request, the jurors were read back key witness testimony from Michael Cohen and David Pecker, and we talked about all of that. The jurors will determine whether Trump is guilty of 34 felony charges of falsifying business records relating to a hush money payment to an adult film star before the 2016 election. And this, the reimbursement, as you probably all know, was made after Trump was already elected. They never mentioned that. The jury must be unanimous on each of the counts. Here's a recap of what both sides said. Okay. And let's see here. We got some updates here. What it's like inside the courtroom right now. Our CNN reporters are seated inside the courtroom as the jury continues deliberating. There are also 4 members of the public sitting inside along with a horde of reporters. So in there is probably Jonathan Turley, Inner City Press, Adam Classfield, Anna Bauer. So that's the latest right now. And currently, we have the jury has been deliberating for 10 hours and 20 minutes in total so far. So, while we take a little intermission here, let's go back to you guys, see what you guys are doing. I saw some So the chat's moving pretty good over here, guys. Hit that like button. Anytime now, any minute now, there could be a decision. But like I said, the longer this takes, I think the better it is for Trump, because that would show that maybe there's, a holdout or two or three, or maybe many. There's real deliberation going on here, possibly. Valerie says, like, subscribed, and shared. Thanks, Valerie. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Appreciate that. David said, hello from the UK. Keep up the good work. Thanks, David. Thanks, David. Thanks for watching. Rebecca says, liked and shared. Thank you, guys. You guys know that YouTube is not a huge fan of conservative content, especially America First content. They're okay with Rhino content. They love that stuff. But when it comes to an America First perspective, where the opinions, might not be mainstream, YouTube doesn't really like that so much. So it really seems like sometimes there's some suppression. I don't know. I just call it how I see it. So a share, a like, a comment really helps. It goes a long ways. Barbaric Brit says, this judge should be dragged over the coals. Everyone has a right to a defense, and part of that is knowing who accused you and all the charges so you can mount your defense. That's a good point. The prosecution, the secondary crime that they're alleging is very vague. In fact, in the jury instructions, they can, there's a grab bag of I think 3 crimes. What do you want? Which crime do you think he committed? So there's the underlying crime, which is, of course, these 34 counts, misdemeanors, upgraded to a felony because of this, because he did it in the advance of this nebulous, vague crime that they really can't put a finger on, but the jury can figure it out. What? How does that work? Yeah, how are you supposed to launch a defense against that? You're exactly right. But that's what happened. Tisha says, a good human is being abused by this judge. Live at the border. It is awful. Yeah, it is. It's sad what's happening in the justice system right now. In New York specifically, there are good courts, but New York seems like it is a very corrupt part of the country. And it's being exposed for everyone to see. And this shows you how desperate they are to keep Trump out of the White House, even though it's having the opposite effect. His numbers just keep going up. Michelle, yeah, exactly. The whole world is watching this. Just remember that. This is true. Take illegals to Merchan's home. I'm okay with that. Let them live there. Thorny Nose. The judge is hostile toward a political opponent. Yes. And Joseph Collin says, hey, Michelle, here's a hug. I hope you enjoyed that hug, Michelle. Joseph, I hope you enjoyed that. Virtual hugs. Virtual hugs to everybody, okay? Michelle says, that's because there are lawyers on the jury. Yeah. So I was wondering, I was thinking about this. I believe there are 2 lawyers on the jury. And hey, while we're on the topic of jury, let me show you. I dug up something from a little blast in the past. Let me go back to this view right here. I dug this up. This is the news that this was the jury questionnaire, and this is one of the pages of it, where the jury or the jurors selected what news sources that they consumed. So we have jurors and news sources right here. So the BBC, there's a jurors that watch the BBC. There's an alternate that watches the BBC. So on this side is the jurors. On this side is the alternates. And notice right here, one of the jurors is on True Social and X. So one is on True Social and one's on X. That might be the same juror. I don't know. So that's that could be the juror that is holding out. Or maybe it's one of these legal minds, one of these lawyers that are looking at this like, wait a second, this just doesn't make sense. They might be leftist. They might have TDS, but they're like, I passed the bar. I studied law for years, and there's something wrong with this case. So maybe there are some people out there with TDS that have some sort of ethics. I don't know. I wasn't sure if it was a good or bad thing that there were lawyers on the jury. But we have these people. Of course, a lot of them, most of them watch the New York Times. A couple of them read the New York Post. Or no, one of them read the New York Post. New York Post is okay, I guess. But the X, Twitter, formerly Twitter, and True Social, that's the one. That might be our guy, guys. That might be our guy. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of that. But where were we? Let's go back to the chat. We have Contrafact says DJT stock to the moon. Let's go. Selah says Mike and Donna, my BFF, lives in Arkansas. Okay. All right, let's get caught up here. Pray, pray, pray. All right, guys. By the way, we might have George coming on the show. Let's see, what time is it right now? We might have George coming on the show pretty soon here. I know he had his Frank speech. Let me text him really quick. He was going to come on. Okay. Should be coming on pretty soon. We'll see. We'll see. Sometimes he answers his phone. Sometimes he doesn't. All right, but what else do we have going on here? We went through the Laura Loomer thing. We went through the jurors. Now we also have Glenn Beck, who commented on this, talking about the jurors in the Trump New York case and the insane idea that they don't have to agree on what crime Trump committed. Remember, the underlying crime, the 34 misdemeanors or whatever, that's one set in stone. They have to agree on that one. But apparently they don't have to agree on what crime Trump was furthering in advance of that upgraded that to a felony. So this is Glenn Beck talking about this.
We finally now know.
Let's get a quick update on the trial and what the instructions the judge just gave the jury.
Yeah, we've all been kind of waiting with bated breath here, Glenn, to find out what the other crime was, because the entire basis of this is to have these charges go against and clear the statute of limitations. They need to have it tied to another crime. And this entire time, we've been kind of like, it's like an M. Night Shyamalan thing where like we don't know what's going to happen.
Right at the end, I see dead people committing crimes.
Exactly. Which crime is going to be?
Right.
What crime is going to be tied to? We don't know. And then Bruce Willis finally realizes what happens.
Yeah.
Well, we finally now know what the crime is. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Okay. It is violation of federal election law. Now, of course...
But wait, a local district attorney cannot enforce or prosecute federal laws.
No, definitely not. And they wouldn't allow Brad Smith to actually come in and testify about that to
FEC.
The FEC guy to actually inform people what the law meant. But that we at least now know that these people who don't know what that law is just have to judge whether Trump falsified business records to violate the law they don't understand. So there you go.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Or
the
falsification of business records. So it could be that he falsified these business records in an attempt to falsify additional business records. We don't know anything about that. They didn't say anything about that. But
now we know.
It could be.
Now we know.
And we should know, by the way,
Okay.
it is either the crime that is attached could either be a violation of federal election law or a falsification of additional business
But let's say you really,
records.
really hate him. Could it be both?
Could be both.
Could be both. Okay, good.
So
good.
there you go.
Good.
Or
I knew it was coming.
Tax violations.
Oh, tax violations.
It could be that he violated, because everyone on that jury understands the entire tax code and can totally.
But they didn't testify on any of that.
No. They did not inform them what the tax violations would be.
Wasn't
But it. simply is either a violation of election law, the falsification of business records, or tax violations, and the judge was very helpful to tell them that they might not agree on which one of those crimes it was. It could be 4 that agree on one, 4 that agree on another.
Any, mini, miny, mo.
But as long as they all agree he violated one of those 3 crimes, then they can convict.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. That's absolutely insane. Yeah, so any, mini, miny, mo. Which crime do you want to pick a tiger by the toe? So yeah, that's insane. By the way, I mean, Glenn Beck, awesome studio. I'm jealous. Fantastic studio. Also, we have this clip from Alina Habba on Fox News. And she went on Fox News and she corrected Shannon Brim, I guess, or Bream, however you say her name, who was on Fox News and said that, no, this is not a political witch hunt. This is not a political trial from Joe Biden. And Alina Habba corrected her live on air. And it's absolutely incredible. Watch this.
Right. The Fed. Listen, but the Biden administration's not responsible for this trial. How can you say the Biden administration's not responsible for this trial? It's a state trial. It's Alvin Bragg. Whether you think there's a political motive for him, it's not connected to the DOJ. I mean, Shannon, the Feds passed on these election charges. Shannon, you should look at how many logs they have of state officials, Letitia James, Fannie Willis, visiting the White House, and then tell me that this is not a Biden trial. I don't care. The Feds pass on this case is the point I'm making. Right. The Feds pass on this case. Also, DA Cy Vance passed on this case, and years ago, and then it came back. And Bragg passed on this case. You know when it came back? When he decided to run for office. Mm-hmm. So tell me how that's not an indication that Joe Biden, who just sent his campaign down here with Robert De Niro yesterday, isn't a part of this. Frankly, any question that we had of that was squashed yesterday. And if you have even more concerns about whether he's involved in this, look at the fact that he is publicizing, literally publicizing, for tonight to have a speech if a verdict comes out. That's a sad state of affairs. Meanwhile, our country is falling apart. He's got.
So that's what makes me wonder if that's what makes me wonder if there's going to be a verdict out today. I don't know. It's supposed to be in control of the jury, but apparently the Biden campaign, if a jury comes out with a verdict today, they're going to hold a press conference. That just sounds really fishy to me. I don't know if that means that the jury is somehow rigged, but it just sounds weird. But what sounds even more weirder than that, weirder, is an MSNBC contributor, Andrew Weissman, has a massive man crush on Juan the Con Merchan, who in some of his photos looks like he wears eyeliner on his eyes. And apparently Andrew Weissman, this really gets his engines going.
He is such, as you've noted, with respect to Judge Merchan, I mean, I am like now, I have like a man crush on him. He is such a great judge that it's hard to see that the jurors wouldn't have the same impression. I mean, you just keep on thinking, if you looked in a dictionary for like judicial temperament, that's what you get. With, as you've noted.
What? Look in the judiciary for, what do you say? Look in the dictionary for judiciary temperament. This guy absolutely lost it on Bob Costello. His temperament is terrible. He flipped out on a witness and he screamed at the reporters, at the press, to get out of the courtroom and tried to kick everybody, the free press, out of the courtroom, screaming, flipping out. Told Bob Costello not to look at him. Are you staring at me? Don't stare at me. So yeah, look in the dictionary for judicial and temperament. Bob Costello should pop up according to Andrew Weissman. Massive man crush. Probably has like a mural in his bedroom or something. Okay, guys, we also have, this is just some stuff that has been going on lately. While we wait for some updates on any of the jury verdict, we have Newt Gingrich. This was his take on everything that's going on. He thinks, they're going after Donald Trump so hard right now. He thinks that maybe Donald Trump could be in danger physically. I mean, if they're going to go after him this hard and manipulate all these levers of justice to go after Donald Trump, manipulate the judge, use the judge to their own advantage, who's conflicted, use these lawyers, use the DA's office. What's going to happen when they used up all of their other resources? What's the next one? What's the last one that they have? So this is Newt Gingrich, who I actually met when I was in college, by the way, when I was in university. Shook his hand. This was his take on everything that is going on.
In Philly today, how minuscule this crowd was in Philly today. It's like nobody wants to show up.
Well, look, you think the average American is stupid? I mean, you look at this doddering guy who clearly is only half the time in charge of what he's doing. You look at his vice president, who may be cognitively fine, but she's just goofy. And you say to yourself, what is it I'm supposed to get excited by? And then you look at Bidenflation, which is every American experiences every day, every time you go to the grocery store. Every American. So I don't care how many ads the Biden team runs. They're trying to convince the rest of us that the things aren't as bad as we know they are because we're feeling it in our pocketbooks. When you have to, if you're a Democrat and you have to go to your base this hard, you are really on the edge of collapse. If you were a comparable deal would be if a Republican had to try to shore up West Virginia. And I think what you're going to see in the next few months and it really worries me, frankly, that you're going to see a desperation when they come to realize nothing they're doing is going to work, and they're confronted with the likelihood that Trump's not just going to win. He's going to win big. He's going to take in the Senate and the House. And I think all of us ought to keep Donald Trump in our prayers because I think these people are desperate, and I think they're dangerous.
I don't disagree. Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich.
Yeah, he makes a really good point there. I've wondered this myself. How desperate really are they to try to keep Trump out of office? How desperate? You saw what they did in 2020. That's pretty desperate. A lot of people have major questions about, these systems that we've put our trust in for a long time. They were willing to put all of that at risk to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. And now, a lot of people have lost a lot of trust in the system. Massive questions. There's investigations happening. There was censorship that happened. It's like a big fight every day against propaganda, the media, what you know to be true. They're willing to risk all of that. And now, next election, 2024, how far are they willing to go? We don't know. And that's what Newt Gingrich is alluding to here. Also, we have Representative Elise Stefanik. Let me exit out of some of these tabs, guys. I got like a massive amount of tabs that just built up. Representative Elise Stefanik has also filed a misconduct complaint against Judge Merchan. Because Merchan somehow he's being put on all these Trump cases, and he also is gagging Trump. Why? It's not because he wants to protect the witnesses. That's out the window. All the witnesses are done. They've already testified in all this, and the gag order is still on Donald Trump. Yet Judge Merchan refuses to lift it, and it was an unconstitutional gag order from the beginning. And Elise Stefanik, she files a complaint. This is what happened.
Against Judge New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has filed an official misconduct complaint against Judge Merchan, insisting that his selection to handle Trump's case is not random at all, calling on the Inspector General of New York's court system to investigate. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this? Because, this is the same judge that oversaw Steve Bannon and other areas of Trump's world. I mean, wasn't random that they selected him, was it?
No, I think that we've got deep issues in the New York judicial process of getting judges selected. It has to be neutral and independent. It has to be random. It doesn't appear to be that way. He continues to be put on Trump cases one after another, and it sounds like there's some shuffling and poker playing going on within the judiciary to make that happen. So I think that that investigation is very important.
New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has filed.
So at least there are some people pushing back against Judge Merchan. I think that's very important. Our DOJ is the Biden administration, so I don't know how far it'll go with them. They don't care. They don't care about justice. But Elise Stefanik out there doing the Lord's work. Also, I found another tweet. This was from Julie Kelly. I thought it was a good tweet from Julie. She says Juan Merchan doesn't care if any conviction gets appealed because this whole trial is terrible. There's problems with the whole thing, but they don't care. They don't care if it gets appealed. They just want the headline. They want a result out of this that they think will help them politically, the Democrats. He doesn't care about any scrutiny or outrage in his unhinged conduct and lawless orders. He wants, number one, his name to be on the history books as judge in his first criminal conviction of a former president. Number two, to help his daughter drum up more lucrative business deals with Democrats. So he's just trying to get his names in the history books, and he's trying to help his daughter make more money. Absolutely insane. And that was from Julie Kelly. Good stuff. And of course, we had Judge Jeanine today. She has some thoughts. She's a very opinionated woman. She had some thoughts about what was going on in the courtroom. And she is pretty familiar with what happens in the courtroom. So she had some stuff to say. This is what Judge Jeanine says.
He brought up, to me, it was a very difficult day today. I heard a man with a robe instructing a jury that on issues that I know as a former judge, exactly as he was, were just plain wrong, reversible error. I was stunned at what he brought up and what he said, and specifically, I refer, number one, to the fact that we've been talking for weeks, months actually, since this indictment came down, as to what is that unknown felony that will be used to resurrect two dead, expired misdemeanors. Well, that unknown felony is an election law violation, according to this judge, that is made up of a federal campaign violation, of a creation of a false record, or of a tax law violation.
Oh, there we
The
go.
Trump defense team didn't know this, so they couldn't speak to it. And it is a Fifth Amendment requirement that you know the charges against you, that you know it in the indictment, in the bill of particulars, in discovery, in the opening statement, and through the testimony. This was
What are we watching?
during the process.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest. We brought on
Andrew.
George.
I'm sitting here getting angry at you because I was like, "Where's this link?" And you keep texting me. Then I go on the Twitter and I realize you actually texted me above that. So the only thing I see is 2:15, the time it starts. Here
I
we
was
are.
looking, I was like,
Oh,
what's going on here? George, you promised. No, ladies and gentlemen, we got George in the house. George, we are watching, some stuff from Judge Jeanine. She had some opinions on what was going on in the courtroom. It's kind of weird what's happening. We've went over some jury instructions I guess there's been a reread to the jury of some of these jury instructions because
they still didn't get a piece of paper, a copy.
That's correct. They still have not gotten a copy of the jury instructions. So every time they want to rehear some of this is going to be reread back. Certain portions are going to be read back to the jury. Same thing with the witness testimonies and all these other things. What do you think about that, man? Like, it's weird, right?
Well, I'm kind of shocked that we haven't gotten a verdict yet. I mean, what are these people talking about back there? Look, it's very clear that, maybe 8 jurors are saying guilty, or maybe 10 are saying guilty, but then there's 2 or 4 that are saying not guilty. And those 8 are trying to convince the other guys. And they're the reason we're getting extra info. But I think by the end of today, it's kind of going to start dawning on the liberals' minds that this isn't happening. Because it's very obvious. I mean, if everyone in there was a liberal, this would be over. And also, I remember media reporters saying, you know, there was one guy that said he got his news from Truth Social. He kept looking over at Trump. So that guy, he's based. He's on the right team, man.
Yeah, and we had
my
that.
Screen flipped?
One second,
Is my screen flipped? Do you see my camera like inverted?
I don't know. You look fine to me. You look fine to me. But look at this right here. So we have this. This is kind of a, blast in the past. I'm sure you've probably seen this photo before. But this is the media that the jury consumes right here. Let me do this full screen so we can see the whole thing. Can you see that okay?
Never.
Never.
Go. I'll click on the stream.
Okay, well that's fine. But no, it's basically a breakdown of all the media the jury consumes. Of course, we have BBC, CNBC, MSDNC, CNN, but then of course there's that one guy who watches or is on True Social and is on X. Do you think that this could be the guy? So I have a couple, ideas. Maybe this is the guy that's holding out, or maybe it could also be the lawyers, because there are 2 lawyers on this jury, and they have some knowledge of what the law is and what's right and what's not right in the eyes of the law. Do you think that they might be holdouts?
Well, I see another one. It says Fox News. There's one, right? There's another one with CNBC. And not everyone's a political, news consumer. MSNBC, you're definitely like a news consumer. And the New York Times, the New York Post, you're also a normal person, because that's like the opposite of the New York Times. So yeah, I'm actually kind of happy about this. I mean, it's not perfect, but like, even if someone did look at the New York Times, I don't think that's like you're a liberal, because the New York Times still reports on local news in New York. And if they live in New York and they want to know what's going on in their city, they usually look at the New York Times, because it's not all just political reporting. They also report on things that are going on a subway, like that kind of thing. So, some guy got his news from TikTok. Wait, hold on. Andrew, explain this graphic to me, because
so we have 2 columns. It looks like we have many rows. The rows are the news channels or whatever, news channels, social media, whatever, how you get your news. And then you have 2 columns. You have the jurors, and then you also have the alternates. So you have 12, what is it? 12 jurors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There's 5
yeah, and then there's 5 alternates.
Okay.
So the yellow boxes are what the jurors consume.
So it's not like per juror. Okay, so it looks like, you have a few jurors that look at the New York Times.
Well, so you see this column right here. This is a juror. So all of this one that's circled, this juror right here gets his news from True Social and X.
Oh, so it's going down the line?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. It took me a minute to figure it out too.
Go. That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's going down the line. So each column is a juror, but then there are two columns made up of many columns of jurors and alternates. So yeah, we have that juror.
A lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So
okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah, one guy looks at the New York Post. That's good news. And that same person, I don't see anything else for what they look. Oh, that same person that looks at the New York Post also looks at the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. These are normal outlets. I mean, the Washington Post is woker, but the Wall Street Journal is also a normal outlet. But I look at the Truth Social guy. He gets his news from X and Truth Social. So he's definitely MAGA all the way through.
Based, or is he an infiltrator? Because that's like almost too
based. Good. He's based, because no one would actually, if you're a liberal, you wouldn't go and say, I use Elon's app and Trump's app. 2 people you're supposed to hate as a Democrat. If he lied, then fair enough. But then there's other people in here that I would look at and say, okay, you might be fair. That one person that looks at Fox News and MSDNC, that person might be well, actually, it looks like they probably just watch Fox News for meltdowns. Like how we watch MSNBC to see them meltdown, they might watch Fox News the other way, because they're that deranged. But then someone watches their news from TikTok. That must be a younger person. And I think that person is more likely to be reasonable than the other ones. They look at TikTok and Google, so they might be normal. But like if you're actually watching MSNBC, you're watching CNN, well, what about that one person that watches CNBC, which is a business channel? That person might be reasonable. They also look at the not the Wall Street. Yeah, they look at the Wall Street Journal, which is a normal news outlet. So you probably have three people, I think, that are normal. And then the alternates, it's good that on the alternate bench, you have, someone that looks at, actually, they're all crooks. Never mind. The alternates are all crooks.
I don't know, man. I just think it's a really good sign. I know we all want a verdict really quick. I know we all want to, have the conclusion of this trial to figure out what is going on, what's going to happen. But, I think it's a good sign that the verdict is not here yet. That means they're actually deliberate. I know we talked about this yesterday on Firebrand Media. If you guys want to go follow George, go to Firebrand Media. Me and him and I, correct English here. We do a live show 3 days a week on Firebrand Media. So if you want to follow George, yeah, he's on Firebrand Media.
What do you
but
think,
yeah,
Andrew?
I'm sorry.
What do you think? I mean, why are we still sitting here waiting? I already said my opinion. Do you think it's the same thing? Like, you just have the majority trying to convince a minority that's sticking to their guts. What do you think?
My personal opinion is, I think that there might be one like this guy who is like, okay, this trial is BS, maybe. But I also think that a lot of jurors are probably confused over what the prosecution is trying to say happened, because number one, they have a grab bag of crimes that they can pick from, right? I think there's 3 crimes that they can pick from, and they don't have to agree on that crime or which crime. They don't have to agree on which crime it is. Of course, the underlying crime they have to agree on. They have to be unanimous with that, from what I understand. So they're kind of confused as to what exactly is going on here. And I think that the judge not giving them the instructions, not giving them access to testimony very easily, and wanting them to come to him every time they want something, I think that's kind of extending this out. So I think there's probably just a lot of confusion among the jurors. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why it's taking so long. Maybe not, but that's what I am inferring from this. But we've talked about the trial a lot here, and we also are doing some catch up of what happened yesterday. And before we get into some catch up on Biden, because I know Biden is your favorite person in the world, I'm gonna go back to CNN and see if there's anything new here. Fact check. Apparently there's a fact check. Fact check. The jury needs to reach a unanimous verdict on each of the 34 counts against Trump. Yeah, they need to reach a unanimous verdict on that, but not on the crime that Trump was trying to go after that created this felony. This is tying my head up in knots when I try to think of it sometimes. So that is a fact check from CNN. But we also have Biden, who was in Philly yesterday. And let's look at Kamala Harris. Have you seen this video? Kamala Harris, all of a sudden, her accent has changed. Have you heard this? It's like, yeah, believe it or not.
Can I get a witness?
Bruh.
Okay.
Bruh.
Black people, can I get a witness?
Can I get a witness?
Yeah. What is up with that, man? Why do these Democrats, every time they get in front of like people of color, black people or minorities or whatever, all of a sudden their voices change? What?
Oh, jeez. Look.
Hey, how would you like it, George? Every time I got on stream with you, I put my hat to the side like this and try to act, yo, what up, dog? Yo.
I would. Well, first of all, I don't speak like that, so you wouldn't relate to me.
It doesn't matter. They don't know that everyone speaks like that.
Yeah, it's hilarious because they're in Philadelphia, right? Am I mistaken on that?
I believe so. That's
Philadelphia is not a southern state. She brought in a southern black person accent because that's the stereotype. But Philadelphia sounds closer to. I mean, of course, you have the hood slang, right? They speak however. But an educated, normal person that happens to be black sounds closer to someone from California than someone from, Arkansas. Democrats are genuinely at their core racist people. I didn't even see that video, man.
Yeah, that was Joe Biden. He's really having a tough time in Philly. This is a little bit more of what happened in Philly. I'm sorry to really bring all this up. I know you don't want to see this, but
they're trying to erase black history. We're going to write black history because it's American history. They're trying to erase.
So he's saying that Republicans or conservative or MAGA people are trying to erase black history, but the Democrats are trying to write black history. Hey, do you want your history to be written by the Democrats, or would you rather write it yourself?
Well, of course, you'd rather write your own destiny, but
yeah,
simple as that.
So,
well, did you hear this story, Andrew?
Which story?
I'm gonna send you the link on Twitter. I want people to see this because this is why these trials are so beneficial for Trump, because everyone's coming out in support of President Trump. I'm going to send you the story on Forbes. Hopefully they don't ask you for a login, but one of Nikki Haley's biggest donors is about to publicly. Did you see the story? Are you clicking on it? Are you about to click the screen?
I'm about to click on it. I got you, dude. Bill Ackman. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen this. Hold on a second. I got two of 3 articles. 1 second. Give me a second. Hold on. I gotta clean this up a little bit because there's so many ads. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
let's bring it up here.
That one, in my opinion, is a big story. So I don't think that's the story, Andrew.
That's the one that you sent me.
No.
Hold on a second. Let's go back. Hold on.
All right. Well, Andrew's a boomer. Obviously, this guy thinks he can solve every problem, but he can't even click the right screen.
This is the one you sent me on Twitter. Hold on a second, guys. Technical difficulties. So it looks like the jury, I believe, ends their deliberations probably at 4:30. So we're going to stay till 4:30, or I'm going to stay.
Wait, Andrew, what does this do? Oh, it disables my camera. I was trying to share my screen because somebody doesn't know how to share it. Does this work?
No. Hold on. I'm trying to get. Okay, here we go. I got this.
Click on my screen.
Okay.
Oh, look, but you have all those ads though, because you're. All right, whatever. Look, here's the story, guys.
All right, George, tell us about this.
Bill Ackman is one of the richest people in the world, right? He's like 1,000 on the list. I mean, his net worth is 4.7 billion. He's one of those rich guys, and he's a hedge fund manager. And he's expected to come out on X, post a tweet saying, "I'm voting for Trump." And then he's going to send money to Trump's campaign, maybe not billions, but definitely tens of millions. Because a lot of these guys understand that the market that they profit so much from is losing its value because of this puppet in command. Inflation's also killing these big guys because they're looking at their wallets like, well, where's my money, man? Where's my money?
No, there's a reason. There's a reason why he's supporting Trump, right? Because Biden is in office, and there's a lot of pushback of Biden and all of these protesters. That's why Bill Ackman, because it's the Israel-Palestine thing. That's his big thing. But let's look at this. So Bill Ackman reportedly will endorse Trump as Musk denies role in Trump cabinet. So what do we have here? Bill Ackman is expected to support former President Donald Trump in his November rematch with President Joe Biden. Ackman, the founder of hedge fund Pershing Square Capital Management, is expected to make the endorsement on billionaire Elon Musk's social media platform. The endorsement will add to a growing list of Wall Street executives throwing their weight behind Trump, along with billionaire Dallas Mavericks owner Miriam Adelson. Wow.
Oh, for a second, I thought I was about to say, what's his name?
Mark Cuban?
Mavs. Yeah, Mark Cuban.
There's no way Mark Cuban would ever endorse Trump. No way.
Wow. I mean, this is a long list. I mean, That's very impressive for Trump to have that much support. I mean, he already had Steve Schwarzman come out and say he was going to put money behind Trump. I didn't know Miriam Adelson owned the Dallas Mavericks. I thought that was Mark Cuban.
Who does Mark Cuban? I know is he an owner of the Mavericks? That's the basketball team, correct? I know he's the owner of a sports team there. Maybe he sold it. I don't know. I know he's an owner.
Oh, he's
somewhere.
a minority owner. He doesn't even own it. He's a minority owner. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he owns 27%, and he has oversight of basketball operations, while Miriam Adelson owns 70%, and then some other guy owns 4%. So he's like a super minority owner. So he just has like an agreement with them that he'll make basketball decisions, or he'll fire coaches and he'll hire general managers. But so he's a brokey. Yeah, we don't need him.
Yeah, he's the brokest billionaire ever, and he's super happy to fork over $250 million in taxes to the Biden administration, the government. But hey, George, I want you to look at your screen really quick. Does this appeal to you at all?
Hey, you're doing what Conservative Inc. does, man. You're bringing me on to be your token black commentator. You're doing PragerU. Hey, Dennis.
No, dude.
How you
this
doing,
is
Dennis
all of this.
Prager?
All of this I was going to talk about. You just so happened to come up. I had Biden next because I had 2.5 hours to do because we're watching for this verdict.
Did they really get a ban from an HBCU?
No, it's just funny because in the back there, not only is his band playing, but then you have Elmo. Apparently, Elmo is a big attraction at this college.
Here's the thing. If Trump goes to Philadelphia and has double the crowd, well, I mean, he's definitely going to have double this, maybe like 10 times the crowd at some big park like he did in the Bronx. See, I don't know why Republicans have never thought of doing this, but go out to Philadelphia. This is what I'm saying. They need help. Those people are calling for help. The Democrat they elected to be mayor may as well be a capitalist Republican. That's all I'm going to say. This Sherelle Parker, she's still a Democrat, but she signed legislation recently to slash all kinds of regulations. She is, by the textbook definition, a conservative Democrat, and she was elected in Philly. So I would ask Trump and other Republicans, if they want to win Pennsylvania, to show up in Philadelphia, build that momentum, have 40,000 people at a rally, right? And hopefully half of those people are from the hood in Philly and Detroit, Michigan. These are swing states too. So if you can reduce the margin of loss in these big inner cities, you just win automatically. It's very hard to do anything. So Trump should go to Philadelphia, have none of these cringe things to appeal, and go deliver a message that says they're taking your resources and giving it to people that are not from here, but from third world countries. He would win bigly. What is this? I can't see. Oh, Joe Biden. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. I've been live for 2 hours now. Yeah, 2 hours. So we're trying to get through everything, all the updates, everything that's been going on for the past yesterday, parts of the day. We're looking at the jury instructions and what's going on in the courtroom from different perspectives. So we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But before you go, let's watch this video and then read a couple
Is Lou
comments.
coming on next? You got Lou on next? Yeah.
I don't know, man. Shoot him the link. Shoot him the link after you get off.
No. That's you. I'm Barbie, bro. I'm a Barbie. I don't.
Is he not? Is he not live right now?
No, I'm saying. Oh, he's not live. So I thought like you would have multiple guests come through.
I thought about it.
If this verdict doesn't come out, Andrew, today,
I don't think it's going to.
I'm calling you a clickbaiter.
How? So you think my title's a clickbait? I don't think so. But this is what Jill Biden said. She calls Joe Biden calm, steady, and strong, and says he has character and integrity.
And we have a choice. I mean, this is what I'm out there saying. We have a choice. We can have, my husband who is calm and steady and strong and has character and integrity. And we have a choice. I mean, this is what
we have a choice, George. If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black, bro. So,
man, this woman infuriates me. I have to say, she infuriates me. I mean, her demeanor and who she is just infuriating. But anyways, Andrew, it was good to be on your show. I look forward to getting future invites. Okay. How do you normally get out?
Hey, man, you just you can just press hang up on that little thing, and that's it. So hey, everyone say bye to George. George, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Here, let's do a challenge. If we get a $10 super chat from anybody right now, I will. He
will super chat me $10,000. That's what he's trying to say.
No, $10. I will wear makeup.
No,
literally right now.
Why do you think anybody wants to see you put makeup on, George? Are you trying to be Juan Merchan? Juan Merchan, doesn't he wear like man eyeliner or something like that? Because that's what a lot of people are saying.
Right. No, I will do the most homo thing I can, and I will wear makeup right now. So anyone in the comments, go ahead and send that $10.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was George, my co-host on Firebrand Media.
Come on, man. We got to solicit donations. Look, you got to feed your kids, man. You got about 4 kids.
4, yeah, at least. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was George. Thank you, George, for coming on.
Solicitation.
Okay, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, should I try to get Lou on just for a little bit as well? Let me send him a message really quick. Let me send Lou a message. We are coming towards the end of the jury deliberations for today. Let me see if Lou is up. See if he's popping around here. Get a little perspective from him. See what he's doing. All right, Lou. Pop in. We'll see if Lou takes the bait. But ladies and gentlemen, okay. So Jill Biden, she is trying to do some campaigning for Donald Trump, or for not Donald Trump. That's Joe Biden. Joe Biden campaigns for Donald Trump. I don't know if you guys saw that speech he gave where he said, we must reelect Donald Trump. But Jill Biden is campaigning for her husband. Very interesting, right? And she also went on The View. I know this is everyone's favorite channel, The View. She went on The View where she talked about Joe Biden and how he's a strong leader. She says the election is not about age, it's about character. And that Joe Biden has integrity and he's strong, he's steady, he's a leader. And we can all laugh at this together, guys, because we all know that's not true. But, it's her husband, so I guess it's kind of sweet, right?
I know. I have met him a couple of times. He seems right on top of it. I said to him last time he was here, do you work out? He said yes. Yes. Every day?
Mm-hmm. Yes, every day.
What do we have to do to tell people that the man is competent, alert, and doing the job? And it's not about his age. The other one is doddering and doesn't remember anything. Yeah. And can't put a sentence together and has like brain farts in the middle of a paragraph, and they go after Joe.
Well, this election is not about age because, like you're saying, Donald Trump's going to be, 78?
78, yeah.
And Joe's 81. They're basically the same age.
Right.
So, but it's about character.
It's about character.
It's about character. Yep. So you have 2 choices. You have my husband, Joe, who you all know, who has integrity. He's strong. He's steady. He's a leader. He's
strong and steady. I'd like to refute those.
Or you have chaos.
That's right.
Yes. Or you have chaos.
Right.
I will take the chaos, okay? I will take the chaos any day. Well, guys, we're going to go to the final part of the show. because we got about 30, 35 minutes left before the jury is, from what I understand, going to take off for the rest of the day. This is some perspective from Anna Bauer, this tweet thread that she has. Kind of gives a good perspective. We'll read through this and see what she saw today and what was going on in the courtroom during this day 2 of deliberations. She works for MSM, some mainstream media outlet, probably MSNBC, maybe NBC, one of those. But she said that the courtroom is like Manhattan's hottest club. The line to get into the courtroom is 1,530. So there's 1,530 people waiting in line to get into the courtroom, where the jurors will decide Trump's fate and are set to return at 9:30 a.m. before they resume deliberations. And then she asks, will today be the day we get a verdict? And so this is the line right here. To get into the courtroom today, this is what happened right here. A lot of people very excited for this verdict. Very excited to sit there and wait. So this is the same thing as what happened with Inner City Press, but just from a separate perspective. And she adds some like links and stuff. I think it's kind of cool. So we'll see what she says right after we get an update on CNN, see if there's anything else new on CNN. I haven't got any updates on Twitter. Let me check. I got my phone opened to Twitter. Do I have any notifications? No, I don't have any notifications. So if no notifications on Twitter, it's probably no update. But any day now, we will have a verdict, hopefully. The jurors are set to resume their deliberations later today. This is from Anna Bauer. And let's put this view up so we can see your chat at the same time. Let me know, guys, before we end the stream. What do you think the verdict is going to be? Is it going to be hung jury? Is it going to be guilty? Or is it going to be not guilty? Let me know. But let's read this perspective here. She says, we don't know whether the juries want to rehear the entirety of the jury instructions or just an excerpt. This was earlier. When Judge Merchan excused the jurors yesterday, he told them that they could think about it and tell him when they return this morning. In courtroom 1530, Trump entered down the center aisle at 9:25. And she's very excited about the color of Trump's tie. Blue tie, cobalt blue tie. Only a woman would say cobalt blue. She knows her colors. I see blue, I just see blue. Okay. But she sees cobalt blue. Very interesting. And he has in his little posse there in the courtroom, Alina Habba, Eric Trump, and Boris Epstein. I don't know how to say that last name, guys. I'm not going to even try. Epstein. Boris Epstein. So that's who was in the courtroom with him today, trailing him. Trump spends a few minutes speaking with Eric Trump before he takes a seat at the defense table. And she says the internet service in this courtroom is very bad. So the internet sucks. Those high taxes that you pay in New York, you don't get very good internet service for it. Really high taxes, terrible internet service. What is the government spending their money on over there? This tends to happen when Trump is on the move or when he first arrives in the court, but it's always at the most inopportune time. It's probably because everyone's tweeting, uploading stuff, using the internet. So the bandwidth is all like sucked up by all these different devices that are attached to it. All rise. Judge Merchan enters. The parties introduce themselves. Good morning, Mr. Trump, says Judge Merchan. He calls him Mr. Trump. He doesn't call him President Trump. He doesn't give him that respect. Yesterday, the parties conferred on which portions of the requested testimony should be read back to the jurors. Okay, so we went through all that, guys. Let's see if there's anything interesting, kind of different that Anna Bauer says. She says that regarding the jury instruction reread, Judge Merchan initially said he would start on page 7, but after some discussion with Trump attorney Blanche, The judge says now he'll begin on page 6 and end with page 35. We read some of that earlier. I didn't get back to it because I was getting kind of bored. So as the jury deliberates, maybe tomorrow we'll read some more of it. So if you guys want to hear more of that, come back tomorrow. So laptop without laptop capabilities. Laptop doesn't have Wi-Fi. And she says right here, Judge Merchan also wants to put on the record that, as it turns out, the laptop provided to jurors, which contains the exhibits admitted into evidence during the trial, does not have laptop capabilities. So I guess it doesn't have a speaker. Interesting. They had to provide additionals like a separate speaker, I guess, or headphones. And the jurors come back in. Justice Merchan rereads the notes because they always have to go back to Justice Merchan. The section that he began with is the one we read earlier. Jury should consider evidence in the case, what it means to draw an inference from the evidence. For example, this is some of the evidence right here. The evident part from the jury instructions. And then he talks about his limiting instructions. This is what the jury is hearing today. This is what they requested to hear. And instructions about the evidence that the jury can consider only for a limited purpose. So there's some evidence that they can't consider completely. It's constrained how they can consider some of this evidence. They can't consider some of it for the purpose of determining Trump's guilt. And there's an example she gives us here. The jurors can only consider AMI's non-prosecution agreement to consider David Pecker's credibility and the surrounding circumstances. So they can't use it, the non-prosecution agreement, they can't use it to determine Trump's guilt. They can only use it to determine David Pecker's credibility. And then he talked about the burden of proof, which is very important here, because even though the media likes to say so, the defense does not have the burden of proof. Even though the prosecution keeps trying to flip the burden of proof to the defense doesn't have the burden of proof. That's why you see the prosecution coming out with 22 witnesses, and the prosecution or in the defense only coming out with 2. They try to do 3, but the judge wouldn't allow the FEC, their FEC expert. I think he was the commissioner for the FEC as an expert. He wouldn't allow that in. So they only called 2 witnesses, and one of them was just a paralegal from Blanche's law firm who was up there for a few minutes just to confirm that this was the call that he had. These were the calls that he had found in whatever database. So technically they really only had 1 witness of circumstance, and that was Bob Costello. And the judge barely let him to say anything, screaming at Bob Costello. But ladies and gentlemen, hold on. We've got something going on. We've got, I don't know if this means there's a verdict or if this means this is now. What is this? Happening now. Okay. Happening now. Trump enters the courtroom, followed by Eric and the entourage, Alina Haba, that other person with the weird name. Prosecutors entered earlier. Judge Merchan announces he will excuse the jury for the day. So, guys, no verdict for today. So you know what that means. That means I get to go eat some food because I am starving right now. I am starving. Hey, we got a super chat from Thorny Nose. $10 super chat. George, you know, I don't want to see you in makeup, but you promised the people. You promised the people. Thank you, Thorny Nose. I appreciate it. You are donating to my food fund. I'm very hungry right now. I haven't eaten anything. I had coffee and I had Diet Coke. I know that's very unhealthy of me, but I haven't eaten today. So while we close out the show, guys, first of all, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate you. And let's read some comments from you guys. And make sure before we get off here to hit that like button. And if you're feeling really frisky, share the stream out, share the video. That really helps a lot. We've got many, many people in the chat. We've got 344 people watching right now. Some people, I think, got bored during my reading of the jury instructions. I got bored too, don't worry. But sometimes we got to fill in the time slots. Donna says, yes, bring Lou on. I gave him the link, but he never showed up. Lou Valentino, WYA. Where you at, bro? Where you at? We'll have him on maybe tomorrow. We'll talk about it. It was kind of spur of the moment thing. I talked about this with George earlier, so. Thorny Nose says Joe has experience running the family business. Yes, he does. Who else is in the chat? We have We Need Peace as Lord, I ask your holy name that these liars bite their tongue and stutter when they lie. Yes. Michelle, everyone tell Michelle thank you. Michelle, thank you for modding in the chat. I appreciate you as usual. Once again, she has a special set of skills. And you don't want to know what happens when you don't like the stream. Trust me, you do not want to know. One of these days, maybe I'll tell you, but I can't tell you right now. Maybe I can tell you on Rumble. Steven says he believes that the verdict is going to be guilty. You know, that's definitely a possibility. I really hope not. Anne asks if the verdict is today. It looks like no. And I know we're all disappointed, but I believe that that is a good thing. Because that shows that they're really deliberating. They're trying to figure out this case and what is going on. And if you've been following this case, you know it makes no sense. It makes absolute no sense. And if they're really drilling down and inspecting what's going on in the case, maybe that will become evident to the jurors. Michael says the jury decision he believes is a toss-up. Thorny says surrounded by the deep state. Yeah, deep state all over this trial. Matthew Colangelo, one of those. Selah says, OMG, Joey is describing Joel, not Trump. Joe has horrible character. You mean Jill Biden. Yes. She's trying to say that Joe Biden has character and is steady and strong. Yeah, these are words that you could describe Trump as. He's pretty steady. He's pretty strong. He doesn't stumble. You know, he doesn't really stutter like Biden does. But she's trying to do PR for her husband. That's to be expected, of course. But it is kind of funny because it's so opposite from the truth. Donna says the judge might be holding hostages until he gets the verdict he wants. I saw that as well. I saw a few tweets, a few people saying that. That is definitely a possibility. I don't know. It could be true. Rosemary says jury is too afraid to say not guilty. Another possibility. Mike says the judge is out of control, pure evil. You know who we're missing in the chat today? Jeremy Brummer. Where are you at, Jeremy Brummer? You always have good insights. Thorny says, thanks, Unwoke Thoughts. You're welcome, Thorny. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. Michelle says, I haven't eaten either. What are you going to have to eat? Because I'm literally starving. Anthony in the house says, Wisconsin here. Well, Anthony, thank you for watching from Wisconsin. I appreciate that. Love Wisconsin. It's a great state. I am very near Wisconsin. Okay, this from Michelle. Okay, Michelle. I will read this. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this. Okay, I will read the article. Is this the article you're talking about? This one right here? Iranian proxy army Hamas launches surprise missile attack on Israel 3 weeks after. Is this the one? For some reason, it's not pulling up, guys. I will read it later. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go eat some food. Thank you for hanging out. I will be live tomorrow around the same time. I might do a little earlier. I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on things. I'm afraid that I will not be live when the verdict comes out. So I'll be keeping my ear to the ground, trying to figure out if things are heating up or not. And if they are, I might go live earlier. But before I go, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers. So it'd be much appreciated. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on the next one.